What is up, guys? Captain Wet here with another guide for Dark and Darker. This time we're going to be covering the new and revised map of Ruins and all of the monsters on it, and how to defeat them without being hit. If you find anything helpful in this guide, don't forget to like and subscribe, and you could also follow me to watch live on Twitch. Also in this guide, I will be clearing every single monster that's on Ruins. I'm going to start with all of the monsters that have already been around on Crypts. So if you just want the brand new monsters, you can skip ahead. There's timestamps and chapters for every single monster in the guide, so skip to what you need. The Death Beetle is fairly simple to deal with. All you have to do is rotate around him and stab. If you have a shield class, you can block as well. This is easy to kite with most classes. However, if you do get hit, it will apply a slow to you, and they will stack up, making it harder and harder to evade him after you've already taken a hit. Death Skulls are very easy to deal with. All you have to do is wait for their eyes to glow yellow, and it'll mean they'll lunge, and then you just step to the side. So long as you're moving, even with low movement speed, this should be enough to get away unless you're right in their faces. All you have to do is move away and then hit them once to punish, or you can take them out if you have a faster weapon. Giant bats have two different attacks they can do. They always open up a fight with a shriek that'll cause a drunken effect if you're in front of it. And then they do a lunge attack, which is very easy to dodge. It's just strafe sideways. Half the time they won't even do it if you just keep moving. The only difficult thing about these guys is hitting them, as they are very small targets and can be kind of hard to hit, especially if you have a smaller weapon like daggers that don't have a big arc to them. Outside of that, though, they are very easy to deal with, and they don't do much damage even if they do hit you. Mummies have two different attacks that they can do. They have a moving forward lunge and then a standing still swipe. The swipe you can backstep from, however it has very good tracking, so I would make sure you get away. The lunge, on the other hand, has no tracking whatsoever, and they will continue lunging forward. You can simply rotate to the side and continue to punish them afterwards. Zombies are more of an annoyance than anything else. They have two different attacks they do. A cloud that they produce from vomiting that does damage over time if you step in it. That lasts a considerably long time. And then a swipe attack. The swipe is the same as the mummies. You just simply have to step back and move out of the way of the attack. It's very easy to dodge. However, if you let them sit long enough, they will be able to generate more clouds and eventually can make small spaces very difficult to fight in. Spider spots can spawn up to 3 spider mummies that are very easy to deal with. They have very little health and do very little damage. However, they will continuously respawn until you break the pot. You can break the pot with ranged weapons as well from a distance, or you can run up and stab them. Giant dragonflies have very little health and only one attack they do, where they spew venom in a circular pattern arced in front of them. However, they can start it from either direction, going left to right or right to left. You can simply dodge over top of these or get high ground over them, or you can just run up and kill the dragonfly. They have very little health, and the damage is not very high if you tank one of the hits of poison. Mimics are monsters disguised as treasure chests. They're very easy to defeat. All you have to do is step back every time they go to lunge forward, and then you can move in for an attack. If you have a longer reaching weapon, you can kind of attack them the whole time, but with short range weapons, you've got to give them the small opportunity. Now we're going to start going over the skeletons. The skeleton archer, all you have to do is side strafe left and right from his attacks. He can, however, fire 2 shots, so always make sure you dodge for 2. If you have a fast attacking weapon, you can go in between every shot, but if you have a slower weapon, I would wait until he does the double shot to go in, or until he fully rests his bow down. They have very little health and are easy to deal with, though. The skeleton footman has 2 different attacks. He can do a diagonal chop or a overhead vertical chop. Both of these attacks are quite easy to dodge. You can just back up for either of them. However, you could also step to the side for the overhead chop, or for the diagonal, you can go under whichever side he is swinging from to dodge. I wouldn't really recommend doing either of these unless you're in tight quarters, but it can be done if you need to. They are very easy to defeat just by backpedaling, though. The skeleton guardsman and the skeleton footman are almost identical in what they can do. However, the guardsman has a shield, and if you hit the shield, it will trigger him to automatically do a block attack if he's not in the middle of a cooldown from his attack animation. You dodge the skeleton crossbowman the same exact way you would the skeleton archer. The only difference is he has a very long reload time in between shots where you can get plenty of damage in. They do a lot of damage if you get hit, though, so be careful of these guys. The skeleton swordsman is very easy to defeat. All you have to do to dodge their attacks is to crouch and look down, and so long as you're crouching and looking down and in front of them, they actually can't hit you at all whatsoever. You could sit there forever if you needed to. If they start from the left side your left, they will always attack twice, whereas if they start from the right, they will only attack once. You can wait till the end of their combo, or if you have a very high attack speed weapon, such as a dagger or rapier, you can step up in between the 2 attack combo and go for a second hit. The Skeleton Spearsman has 3 different attacks. He can do an overhead chop, a forward lunge, and a horizontal swipe. In order to dodge each of these attacks, they have different methods. The forward stab, you just move to the side of. The overhead chop, you also can move to the side of. The horizontal chop, however, you have to duck, look away, and move about 3 paces away from the skeleton in order to dodge this one. It's a little more tricky to do, so if you can avoid it altogether, you might want to just back up from that one. The Skeleton Axeman is quite a tricky mob for a lot of people to learn to deal with at first. They have 2 separate attacks, an overhead chop and a horizontal chop. You can dodge the horizontal chop by taking a few steps about 3 away, ducking and looking away from them. However, this is very dangerous. They also have the overhead you can dodge by moving to either side. If you're a faster class like Bard or Rogue, you can rotate around the left side of them and hug close, and this will dodge both of their attacks regardless of which one it is, and will prepare you better for nightmare mobs when you may have to dodge both attacks in combos. The Skeleton Mage has 2 different actions he can do. He can throw a fireball, which deals high damage and leaves a spot on the ground that will do damage over time if you step in it, as well as a protection sphere he can put on himself or other allies of his. For the most part, all you have to do is kite one direction like you would an archer from these guys. Just beware there's not a wall behind you somewhere for the fireball to collide with as well to harm you. And then you just go in for a couple of attacks. The bubble he can use on other allies, so be careful of that as well. The Skeleton Champion can be difficult at first to learn. However, the easiest way, in my opinion, to deal with these guys, rather than learning how to dodge each of the individual attacks, is to just backstep and wait for him to do his full 3 attack combo and then go in to punish, hit him once, twice, back out, depending on how fast your attack speed is. So long as you stay just outside of reach of his attacks, he will always do the full combo. However, if you have a very high speeded weapon, you could go in and break his attack range and go in after every single attack. If you have a slower attacking weapon such as axes or war mauls, I would wait for the full 3 attack combo to end and then go in. His 3 attack combo can end in either a shield bash or a stab, so I would be cautious of the stab. If you have a little bit less distance to back up, he might be able to reach you still. Also, if you can get higher ground, sometimes you can jump over a lot of his attacks. Overall, you just keep on plinking away at him and hitting him over time. You will be able to take care of him. If you do want to learn how to dodge each of his attacks, the horizontal swipe you need to duck under, and the diagonal chops you either need to jump over the side it originates from or duck under the side it's going towards. The stab, however, you always have to move to the side. It has decent tracking, and the shield bash has really good tracking, but only hits close. The Wraith has 2 different attacks it can do. It has a diagonal chop with the cleaver, as well as a forward lunging attack he does. One of the things that make this extra difficult is if he does hit you, it will slow your movement speed temporarily while you're in the range, and if you are a slow moving class already, it can make it very hard to dodge. In order to dodge the forward lunge, you simply have to strafe to either side. However, to dodge the vertical cleave, if you take a step back and jump to your right and pull your legs up to crouch, you will be able to come over the top of the cleaver. You could also just dodge that way either attack he does. That way it doesn't really matter which he does. If you're jumping back and to the right, you will evade both of the attacks pretty consistently without having to read which one he's doing from his animations. If you do get slowed, don't panic. Just try to move away from him and wait out the timer for... Now moving on to the new mobs of Ruins. The Direwolf behaves almost identical to the Frostwolf and the Hellhound. They have 2 different attacks. They do a lunging forward attack and a standing still attack forward. You simply just have to rotate around the sides of these guys to attack. Don't get greedy and over attack, and they are quite easy to deal with. The Harpy is probably going to catch some veteran players off guard, as their attacks are entirely different from the Frost Harpies of the Ice Caverns. While flying, they have 1 attack they do, which is just a forward lunging kick. You just have to rotate to the side and hit them, much like you would an original Harpy or a Demon Bat. They do not do the Wind Blast like the Ice Harpy does. Once you do enough damage to the Harpy, it will fall over onto the ground and leave it vulnerable for a moment. This is when you have an opportunity to strike at them. After that ends, they now have 2 new attacks they can do. A much more accurate lunge forward strike, as well as an attack where they fire their feathers like projectiles at you. The lunge forward is much more accurate and much harder to dodge. If you're a slower class, it could be a little more difficult. However, just continue to strafe and move to the side, kind of diagonal from the attack. The Feather Blast goes in a cone in front of them, and if you are close, you can kite to the side if you're a faster class, or if you have a shield, you can block the damage altogether. However, if you are a faster class, you can just kind of rotate to the side that you're further for. If you're rotating right already, just continue to rotate right, and if you jump and move that direction, you can often dodge the attack. This will do a lot of damage if you are up in their face, so you do want to try to get as much distance as you can from it, so if you do get hit, you touch limited numbers of feathers in you. The slime has 2 different attacks it could do, as well as the unique property that it has 0 collision. You can walk straight through it. Its 2 attacks is a forward lunging attack, as well as an attack where it does a burst around it. Both of these can be dodged just by simply moving back from it. It is quite slow in its attacks, and so long as you see it coming, it can be quite easily evaded. The Wisp has only 1 attack it does, which is a forward projectile that comes very rapidly but has very little tracking. You can just kind of rotate around the Wisp and dodge this attack to infinity. It has a second ability it does where if you have any kind of buffs applied to you, it can remove the buffs. It just does an area of effect around itself, however it deals no damage. The only other thing it does is when you do eliminate the Wisp, it will do a burst of light around itself that will blind and deafen you if you're looking at it. All you have to do to dodge this is simply look away. Living armor can spawn from any of the statues around the map of a knight. If you're not looking at them and you walk past them, this is how you trigger them to activate. However, not every piece of armor will be a living armor. The easy way to dodge these guys is to simply jump and move with whichever side they're swinging. So if they're currently swinging left to right, then you'll jump left to right with the attack and just kind of follow it. If you are fast enough or far enough away, you can just jump backwards to every one of these attacks. However, you can kind of stay in melee range with them if you just jump with the attacks. Their combos will only go 2 or 3 times. However, they can start from either side. They will only go 3 times if they start from the right. The Golem can be a very scary mob to deal with. There's 2 different manners you can fight him. One of which, if you're a faster class, you can just simply move away from all of his attacks. He's quite slow, and everything can be evaded fairly simply just by running away from him. However, the easier way, in my opinion, to defeat these guys is to duck underneath their right arm for every swing. They have 3 different attacks they'll do, where they start with their right and do an overhead swing, one where they start with their left and do an overhead swing, but then they will do a second attack afterwards from their left. And the final attack is a charging forward ground smash attack. The ground smash you do need to move away from. It has pretty good tracking. It's hard to do unless you're a faster class. However, if you have a bigger weapon, if you put it away right before every attack and try to move away, you can get away from it fairly consistently. So long as you're ducking under their right arm every time you're attacking, they will not do the second swing of their attack if you get past their body at all whatsoever, so they'll never do the 2 attack combo. But if you are in tight quarters and you can't manage to break the distance fast enough, and they do their second swing, you can duck the second swing by going underneath the left side of them. Another thing to note is these guys, I know they existed in the past, but now they have been changed slightly to where their loot table always has ore in it now, and it can spawn pretty much any of the ore. It doesn't have iron, but it has copper, cobalt, ruby, silver, and gold, though more weighted towards the lower tier ore. The giant worm has 2 different spawn locations, one in the dead center where it's either a giant or a worm, and then one also in the mines to the southwest of the map. Both of the giant worm spawns to fight the exact same way, however there's a little bit more tight quarters in the center tile. The giant worm has 3 different attacks it does. It has a horizontal low-grade swipe where you can jump and crouch over top of the attack. It has a vertical lunge it does where you can move to either side of it to dodge it, and then it has a burrowing attack in which it'll move underneath the ground. You can see where it is, you just move away from it and you can dodge that one as well. After you deal enough damage to it, it will also do a poisonous area of effect it puts on the ground that lasts a considerable amount of time. It is very tight quarters to deal with this in the underground tunnels in the middle. You want to make sure when he burrows he doesn't move too far so that you don't get put in a position where you're forced to run through it. The easiest way to deal with these guys is, regardless of which attack they do, whether it's the low sweep or the vertical attack, to simply just jump to the right. If you're not too close to it, it should dodge both of the attacks this way. And then if he burrows, try not to move too far too fast. You don't want to make sure he gets underneath you, but you don't want to be able to drag him across the room so that he doesn't get too much gap and make it so you're forced into his poison pool. And then the poison pool itself, you just evade going into it. Don't ever step into it if you can help it. Sometimes it's easier to pull him into a place where maybe you can get on top of a box if you get stuck there, so you can jump over top of it. But overall, that's the easiest way to deal with these guys. And the reason people farm them is there is a 2% chance that they drop the old rusted key, which is a very valuable key. For most, the Cockatrice is the scariest mob on the map outside of the bosses themselves. The Cockatrice starts off every fight by doing its shriek. The only way to evade its shriek is by turning around. If it does hit you, it will put a stone effect on you that will make it so you cannot move anymore and will make it very easy for them to get a few free attacks in, if not kill you altogether. Their only other two attacks is a forward peck and a lunging attack. So the way you dodge the shriek is just to turn around and not look at the Cockatrice, and then as soon as it's done shrieking, you can turn around and see. The other two attacks are both forward moving attacks, where the easiest way to dodge it is to simply move kind of in a diagonal spacing away from it. You don't want to go straight right or straight back, but you want to go kind of on a back and right manner. But you want to turn your body, so you're not actually hitting the S key at all. You want to be hitting the E key while going backwards and kiting backwards to the right. This will evade both of their attacks, and so long as you have a decently fast attacking weapon, you can get away with poking them this way. If you have a very slow weapon, such as a war maul or a battle axe or a double axe, it may be harder to do with low dexterity, and you might have to try to get up on top of something to poke at them. However, if you time your attacks proper with after you step away and swing at the same time, you should be able to punish at this point without getting hit. It can be very difficult to get used to, especially because if you do make a mistake against these mobs, it can often kill you. The only thing I'd say is, so long as you wait for their shriek, you can always get a free hit. And if you have to kill one for a quest and you can't quite figure out the attack pattern on them, if you just kite them around without your weapon away, you should be able to freely attack them every time they shriek. Though they do have a decent sized health pool, this may be a bit more of a difficult way to handle them. And that's it for all of the mobs on the ruins. I know someone's going to put in the comments that I didn't do the giant spider. There is a singular giant spider spawn that has a around 50-50 chance of being there. I had taken probably about 10 attempts to go get a recording of it, and he just never spawned with me. But it is the same giant spider that you fight on the Goblin Caves map. That is it for this guide. I'm working on a Spectral Knight guide next. If you have any additional questions or comments, you can leave them down below. If you'd like, you could like and subscribe for notifications for more content like this. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.